Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago to our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barito. Let's take a look at the headlines. State Bank First Citizens launches its initial public offering. Government addresses labor laws. And Trinidad and Tobago Unitrust Corporation gives scholarships to outstanding SCA students. Thank you for joining us. To our top story, Finance Minister the Honourable Larry Hawai is remaining hopeful that the launch of State Banking Group First Citizens' initial public offering, IPO, will put the bank in a strong position in the local stock exchange. Speaking at the Employers Consultative Association meeting at the Hyatt Hotel, the minister answered questions on this move by the state-owned bank.
With the First Citizens Bank launching its initial public offering IPO earlier this month, ahead of its 20th anniversary to be celebrated in September this year, Finance Minister Larry Hawai hopes to see a lift in the stock market. Earlier this month, the bank injected approximately 1.1 billion TT dollars on Monday, 15 July, into the TNT Stock Exchange with a market value of an offer price of 22 TT dollars per share. Mixed concerns have been met over the value of the issue. However, today the Finance Minister sought to clarify why the $1.1 billion range was made.
I think between the CLICO Investment Fund, which we launched late last year, as well as the potential listing now of First Citizens, we're likely to see quite a significant uplift in the level of activity in the stock exchange, which has been fairly moribund over the past few years.
The IPO will assist the bank in widening its capital base in order to facilitate its future strategic expansion plans. Minister Hawai expressed his confidence in the amount injected as he believes the amount was suitable.
I think that the issue seems to be that we perhaps may have listed too little rather than too much, and that perhaps if we had made a bigger allocation available, perhaps we may not have had some of these concerns rearing their heads. But unfortunately, we didn't do that. We just went with what we thought was a reasonable figure that could be easily absorbed by the market, and which would not, because the last thing we need is to have an issue that fails. We wanted to ensure that the issue succeeded. And I think it's a reasonable size issue of $1 billion. And depending on how that goes, we then look at that as well as other issues that we're doing subsequently to decide how best we should manage the process of sale of these shares.
Concerns have been raised over the 20% divestment as well as the IPO being made available to the public and former employees. However, the Finance Minister cleared the air and explained how this has the potential to impact other state-owned financial institutions.
It's not quite exactly true to say that 70% goes to corporate Trinidad and Tobago, which makes it sound as if, well, it's going to the private corporate sector, as opposed to some of these organizations, which are indeed people's organizations. With respect to employees, yes, the employees do get an allocation, which is a normal thing that is done in situations such as these.
Meanwhile, the minister noted the potential merger of HMB and TTMF as another way of government divesting its state-owned agencies.
We have mentioned the fact that the HMB and TTMF potential merger and potential sale of some shares will be made available to the market. We have hired a consultant to start advising us on that process, and I expect that we should be able to make a decision with respect to this matter towards the last quarter of this year. And then after that, I think we could then look at what other parts of the state enterprise sector we can consider for future involvement by individuals in Trinidad and Tobago in the ownership and perhaps eventual control of these organizations.
In the first 10 years of the bank's history, its profits grew to 233 million TT dollars, while it doubled its asset base to 6.1 billion TT dollars and had attained international credit ratings of BBB- and A-3 by S&P and Moody's respectively. Last year, the group opened a representative banking office in Costa Rica as the bank's first entrance into Central America. An expansion with the acquisition of Butterfield Bank in Barbados, now called First Citizens Bank Barbados Limited. Closing date of the IPO has been set at August 9th midday. Kimberly Calawan, News 4.
Delinquent employers will no longer be able to use the law to disadvantage their employees and target their representing trade union. This as the Ministry of Labor's Industrial Relations Advisory Committee has addressed some laws which allowed for those unfair work practices to continue.
The Ministry of Labor has been presented with the findings of the Industrial Relations Advisory Committee. The committee was set up last year to examine the Industrial Relations Act and its role in the current industrial relations and economic climate. According to the Industrial Relations Act, the Advisory Committee is responsible for reviewing the Act with a view to ensuring its development and reform, including in particular the modification of any of the provisions and the elimination of anomalies. Out of the review, it is expected to prepare and submit to the Minister from time to time a report citing specific proposals for changes in the Act. Minister of Labour and Small and Micro Enterprise Development, the Honourable Errol MacLeod, has been given the committee's report. Among issues discussed in the report are laws which have existed in the Act which allow employers to unfairly target trade unions.
We identified some troubling aspects, some troubling issues in the present law, and these issues have been there for a long time, indeed for as long as the law had come into existence. First the ISA and then the IRA of 1972. We identified our intention to level the playing field insofar as moves by employers to decertify trade unions that were deemed to have committed illegal industrial action.
The Labour Minister highlights that another active part of the committee's work has been looking at the industrial court and its operations and functions.
We need to ensure that that industrial court is examined and brought up to scratch, brought up to more modern constitution, I might say. And we've sought to deal with the question of the judge's tenure, the independence of the court, and so on.
The Labour Minister says there are many other issues which need to be addressed if Labour is to be protected and contribute to the development of the nation.
An examination of labour and the laws, the rules and regulations that must govern our relationship in labour and industry and the general development of our country. And we also pointed to migrant law. We dealt with the question of minimum wages. We dealt with the question of maternity protection and so on. The Workmen's Compensation Ordinance, Retrenchment and Severance Pay Act 32 of 1985.
Minister MacLeod believes that given the government's thrust to protect labour and place it at the forefront of development, he is excited to see the recommendations and their effect on the labour landscape.
The ease with which employers were able to access those sections of the law against the interest of workers and their organizations that had already been in a most disadvantageous situation, we identified a number of areas that can be considered to be a serious unfairment. And we thought that we might deal with that. And I'll be very happy to see in the report recommendations insofar as that is concerned.
Gregory McBurney, News 4.
When we come back, culture camps. Stay with us. Young persons interested in the arts and culture will have a chance to participate in culture camps across the country, hosted by art groups and organizations on behalf of the Ministry of Arts and Multiculturalism. Minister Dr. Lincoln Douglas, launching the program, distributed checks to group leaders and expressed the need to foster meaningful cultural awareness and community pride.
Young persons across the country are participating in a different kind of camp this year, a cultural kind. The camp is an initiative of the Ministry of Arts and Multiculturalism, which targets various cultural aspects found in selected communities. The camp focuses on young persons within age groups 9 to 17 and 18 to 25. In launching the nationwide event, Arts and Multiculturalism Minister Dr. Lincoln Douglas says the camp aims to move youth away from a life of crime onto a new path involved in culture by changing their perception of our heritage and customs.
Culture is not limited to merely festivals and festivities, artifacts and heritage, or even customs and practices. As we say, culture is like water. It is the greater part of who we are. It is our life. It is our survival. And indeed, our development. If we look at development as a movement towards a more meaningful way of living. So within the context of that understanding comes the oftentimes burdensome responsibility to develop, to protect, to preserve that which is collectively ours, that which collectively benefit us today and our future generations.
The event facilitated the presentation of checks to camps across the nation. Director of Culture at the Ministry, Ingrid Ryan Rubin, expressed the urgency for the camp as our heritage and culture was being lost due to a lack of appreciation and knowledge of it.
Entertainment is not only a fete or go have a drink and a lime. You can go to a museum and be entertained. You can go to an art gallery and be entertained. Okay? You can sit and listen to somebody with do poetry for you and find entertainment, and we need to be able to expose them to that. And that for us is another objective of the camp, about developing audiences for it.
From literary arts teaching creative writing skills to craftsmanship where aspects of carnival art are taught, and technical skills such as makeup and hair for theatre are just a few of the training areas to be focused on during the period. One group which will hold its camp on the San Fernando Hill, Interventions and Creativity Through the Arts, believes that getting the story told of the Warahoons, the indigenous people who journeyed from Venezuela to the hill for worship and finding peace, will assist in passing on such skills to participants.
All of those things would incorporate part of the piece, and the whole culture of peace would be from the indigenous people. They came there to do peace rituals on the hill anyway. So that is part of the program. So they will learn the story. The story is going to be done as a production by the drama students and the drama teacher who's facilitating. They will narrate the entire production. So that will be the way if they're involved in it, then they will understand what they are learning.
Lots of people know about the hill just to go and lime and have events, etc. But in terms of really getting in touch with the culture of the hill and San Fernando in particular, that is what we want to do.
The Secondary Schools Drama Association set up its camp at the Presol Secondary School and has themed this year's camp Remember When. These young participants are given a walk down memory lane to the days where games such as Moral and Hopscotch were a favourite pastime and computer-generated toys never existed. As group leader Anderson Labari explains, the aim is to return outdoor activity through culture to the children of our nation.
What we realize is that a lot of these games are being lost. And we're actually seeing a generation not being aware of these games. Children are actually focusing more on playing with computer games and so on. So we decided we needed to get them out of the house. We needed to get our students active and involved. And this is one of the main focus for doing this activity. Also, it really complements what we are doing at our Secondary Schools Drama Festival, which is taking place in November this year, where our focus really is Remember When, and our plays are going to focus especially on those activities of long ago.
The ministry will visit the camps and conduct its feasibility study to ensure its success and measure for future camps and other cultural initiatives. Kimberly Calawan, News 4.
10 lucky students who excelled at the secondary entrance assessment this year have received scholarships from the Trinidad and Tobago Unitrust Corporation. This is expected to go a long way in providing books and other school supplies during a 7-year period.
The Trinidad and Tobago Unitrust Corporation has embarked on its 2013 Secondary Entrance Assessment Scholarship Program, providing much-needed assistance to 10 students. On Friday, Unitrust held its scholarship award ceremony entitled Preserving Our Treasures. The program began in 1996 and consists of a 7-year secondary school scholarship which presents students with books and relevant school supplies worth up to $1,200 per year for 7 years. And in 2008, the scholarship program was expanded to tertiary level education, valued yearly at $2,000 per recipient. The Unitrust Scholarships program was established to assist youths who have academic brilliance and potential but find themselves at a disadvantage due to impoverished or financially challenging circumstances. With the addition of this year's scholarship winners, 104 young persons have benefited from the program since inception, with 67 students presently involved.
We are happy to award these scholarships and to celebrate your triumphs. We remain focused and committed to youth development, and we view every child as having the potential to excel. Every one of you have that potential to excel. Our duty remains to support you, to provide the ingredients to assist, and to help you on the road to attaining your dreams. A lot of students, while academically brilliant, fall by the wayside when they don't have that support. And it's not just in terms of academics, it's in terms of social support, financial support, and general support, as Jonique said. We are here to lend just an ear if you need to talk to someone.
In 2007, the scholarship program was expanded to include a mentor workshop called Strategies for Success, which caters to developing the skills of the scholarship winners and enhancing their competencies. The aim of the workshop is to provide them with the tools to achieve maximum value throughout their school life, not only in attaining academic excellence, but also in understanding the value of communicating effectively, staying motivated, and building healthy relationships.
The program itself is traditionally 4 days long, and it culminates in today's closing ceremony. For the first 3 days, we focus on building skills along 3 overall themes: identity, self-awareness, and self-confidence, relationships, and achievement. Over the 3 days, the scholars are separated into form groups. So the 1s are with the 2s, the form 3s are with the form 4s, and the form 5s are with the form 6s. So they are allowed to grow up together over these years. And they are allowed as well to discuss these themes in a developmentally appropriate manner. On the 4th day, these scholars are provided with the opportunity to become more socially and culturally aware.
In 2012, another extension of the program consisted of a parent workshop which aimed at providing parents with the necessary tools to successfully support their children throughout their secondary school lives. Due to their smaller group size, scholarship winners in Tobago will receive a modified version of the program over the span of 2 days, with the parent workshop set to take place on day 2 of the Strategies for Success program. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
When we come back, our sport report. Stay with us. A new basketball court and cricket practice nets. These are just some of the upgrades planned for the Brown Lara Recreation Ground in Santa Cruz. The Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago has begun refurbishment works on the recreation ground named after the cricketing legend in his hometown. Councillor for the area, Lyndon Lara, is expressing his joy and gratitude with the works. He explains it will allow for the wealth of sporting talent in the area to be developed. Among the works to be completed at the facility include a pavilion which can seat 500 persons, cricket nets to facilitate cricket practice and training, a play area for children, a basketball court, and other essential amenities. More news when we come back. Stay with us. The Member of Parliament for Couva North says while a great deal of work has been done in the constituency, there is more that needs to be done. Ms. Ramdial believes that with her government's continued focus on people-centered development, her constituency will have all its infrastructural needs met.
The Couva North constituency has received a tremendous amount of service in the past 3 years through the Couva North constituency office and the Member of Parliament for the area. On Wednesday, during a ceremony to mark the installation of lights at the Mulchan Suchan Recreation Ground, the Honourable Ramona Ramdial spoke of the consideration that was given to a constituency prior to the May 2010 general elections.
I remember in 2010 when we took office, all of the councillors who were also elected right after, we all came together to plan for the constituency, and I identify Councillor Sandra Abdul, who's also here, and she's the councillor for the Chase Village area. Welcome, councillor. And I remember we all sat together to plan for the constituency of Couva North, and we decided that when we campaigned in 2010, one of the major highlights of that campaign in 2010 was that of a need from the people on the ground for basic infrastructure. And when we speak of basic infrastructure, I refer to that of infrastructural roadworks, bridges, drainage, lights, water. This was a need that was highlighted throughout the constituency of Couva North when we walked. And therefore, when we won the elections and we took office, we said, well, this is the first challenge and the first issue which we were going to attack as a constituency office and as councillors under the Couva Tabaki Talparo Regional Corporation. So from then till to date, we have been implementing, we have been delivering through the various agencies of state, through the various ministries, and of course by government's collective decision to have funds transferred for basic infrastructure for the people of the country. We have been delivering such.
The Honourable Member of Parliament listed a number of projects that have been successfully embarked upon and completed in the Waterloo Perseverance area.
From 2010 till 2013, in the Waterloo Perseverance area, we have embarked upon a number of projects. In the sector of roadworks, we have rehabilitated Rupsing Road, Limehead Road, Derrick Road, Southern Main Road, Chase Village, and as of last week, the entire Jacksonville area right behind you has been rehabilitated with respect to its drainage and roads. In addition to that, under WASA, which falls under my Ministry of Environment and Water Resources, we have been able to deliver water projects in Butler Village, Wyabe, Waterloo, and Cassava Street, in addition to some other side streets throughout this area. With respect to community centers, we have lobbied with the Ministry of Community Development, and we have gotten the Waterloo Community Center in 2010 opened officially, and of course the Carpichaima Community Center refurbished and reopened earlier on this year. When we go to our social activities for the constituency, the Couva North office has been spearheading and leading in a form and in a fashion with our main goal of bringing communities and families together. So we have embarked upon a series of programs. For example, the Couva North Movie Night. As you know, that has become very, very popular. And we have utilized many grounds throughout the constituency in bringing free movie night, especially to the families and the children of the constituency of Couva North. We have also gone on to have our 50th Independence Day celebration early on last year, at the Jerry Junction grounds.
The MP said she could not have done the volume of work that was carried out in the constituency by herself, and as such she paid homage to her government. She reaffirmed the government's people-centered focus and maintained that for true development to take place in Trinidad and Tobago, it must take place at the ground level. Nikolai Edwards, News 4.
Well, that's how we wrap up this edition of our News 4 report, a product of the Government Information Services Limited and the Ministry of Communications. I'm Nicola Barreto. Thank you for joining us.